Cecil, you're up.
All right, very good. My name is Cecil Lawson. Thank you, Mark. And I'm going to piggyback on a lot of what Kadani said and Mark said. But I think with Technest Internet of Things, which is CIS108, it is a broader view of a lot of the technologies that drive the industry. And I think most importantly, it gives you a sense of where the industry is and where it is going and how you fit in it. I'll give you an example of that. If you take a very basic IoT, which stands for Internet of Things device, let's take the Nest thermostat that was purchased by Google, which is a thermostat you put in your house that has access to the internet and you and a lot of other information. And if you think about the technologies that were required to make that work and the evolving technologies, we covered just about everything. I mean, I'll just go down the list here to give you a sense of where we start off with a lot of these technologies. So if you, for example, Python programming, you really don't need to be a programmer, or it helps if you have a programming background. It helps very much if you have a mind that works that way, but we teach you the beginnings of Python programming, but we also teach you the OOD, or object-oriented design, or OOP, sometimes it goes by object-oriented programming concepts, which is important. And it's important not because you're learning a cool new language that everybody seems to be hiring for, every employer out there is hiring for. It's important that you understand those concepts because that applies to other languages that employers are also using right now, and allows you to easily pivot in using and learning those other languages. So we teach you both of those things. The other thing that we talk about, and we don't take a deep dive, but we talk about and instruct data science concepts and statistics. These are two things that really go hand in hand. The data science concepts are the algorithms that Sanjay talked about, which is kind of like classification, anomaly detection, regression, and so forth. But we also precede that with kind of a review of basic statistics, probability, mean, median, mode, mid-range, causality, covariance, correlation, and so forth. Kind of something you've probably taken in high school, you may have taken in college, but we go through that, review that, because it's important that you understand that to understand what's going on in data science. So that's part of the course. We also talk about database concepts, SQL, with the language of speaking with databases. There are other languages to talk to databases, but this one's based on set theory and is a very, very common and well-used language. We also talk a little bit about non-structured database and how those all that unorganized data that exists in the world, the big data problem that we're trying to solve with this, which is all that information these IoT devices are creating and trying to make sense of it. When you think about the big data problem, you really need to think about companies like Facebook and companies like Google who have taken advantage of the fact that there's a lot of data out there. They simply understand the hidden gems within the data, and that's how they make their businesses. So database concepts. The other thing that we also talk about is, and this is kind of rare, by the way, we take you through the whole ecosystem, if you will, of the technology around IoT. And that is computer hardware and basic electronics. And so if you don't know what a diode is, you don't know what a semiconductor, how it works, or an actuator or a sensor, we take you through that so you understand what each of these devices are doing and how they work together to make technology like your smartwatch or your smartphone, or those many IoT devices you didn't know they were called IoT devices that you already own and use. But we do a little bit of wiring, easy wiring, no solder involved. Solder is that hot stuff that zinc that you use to make connections. None of that, but we do take you kind of in a hands-on mode to help you understand how these things are put together. We also talk about the networking, the fundamentals, wireless and both wired networking within IoT. And that's important because these IoT devices often will be tethered and mostly untethered to a network. They're working wirelessly. They're using what your cell phone uses, cellular communication. They're using Wi-Fi. They're using things like Zigbee or BLE, Bluetooth low energy devices or protocols. And we kind of give you an idea what's going on and how you make those connections. And more importantly, how do you make those connections secure, which is important in this world of devices all over the place. I have about 70 devices around in my house right now running, and most of these are wireless. So it really, if you think about IoT, and it's kind of in my mind, it's kind of a dumb acronym, Internet of Things. It really encompasses anything that connects wirelessly, is collecting information. You name it. It's collecting weather information. It's collecting biometric information with my watch right here. It's collecting, it lets me know what the weather is outside to turn on the sprinkler system and so forth. The list is growing exponentially, and what we try to achieve here is not only your rote memorization of the concepts and how those concepts come together, but speaking of multi-modality of courses, we try to not only teach you those concepts, but also have you demonstrate those concepts. Many people learn different ways, and we try to try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, so these things connect and you kind of understand what's going on. And the reason why that's important is because employers are looking for discernible skills. There was a conversation right before we started talking about employment. How do I find the job? How do I get selected for a job? It is skills, and it's skills based on most of which we're teaching in IoT. Every single one of those areas that I talked about is a skill, a knowledge, a demonstrated skill set. And so our multimodality, we're talking about, we'll talk a little bit about how we get the hands-on. COVID-19 has really slowed that down, the hands-on idea of putting a device together, working with a team, working within a team, communicating, which is part of the capstone, as an outcome of your project, and then showing what you've built. And that's part of it. We will build a device, and you will build a device, and you'll build it from ground up, and you'll program it, and then you'll show it to your peers. So that is part of Internet of Things. The other thing Mark wanted me to talk about is BUS068, which is kind of one of the coolest courses I think that I've taught in a long time, because it involves not only the technology. It's I kind of call it Silicon Valley style business. It covers all the basic business concepts, all the way from accounting to marketing. We talk about the structures of business. We talk about finding finance or capital for businesses. But there's a bit of a focus on Silicon Valley, which is venture capital. Where does it come from? Who gets it? How do you get it? Who do you talk to? Talking about narrowing down what the mission of a business is and how to compete in a marketplace for a product and a service. But we really took all that basic stuff that you find in most entrepreneur business classes, or most business classes, and kind of shaped it in a way where it adds a touch of Silicon Valley. So it makes it kind of exciting when we're talking about Elon Musk's model, or Netflix, how they broke into a particular market, or how markets are created that didn't exist before. Think of Apple computers, right? So that's that course. One of the last bullets I want to talk about, in conjunction with IDT, as it says, a Renaissance company. Dr. Tran talked a little bit about the acquisition of, and Greg Waters was the CEO of a very large company. The goal was to work with engineers. Whether we're able to do that this semester or not would be really directed by what's happening with COVID. But again, that is very much hands-on. It's kind of fun, and kind of in a sense, a lot of pressure is put on the teams or the individuals to produce, but it is certainly a great learning experience, and something you'll never forget. Okay, that's it.